What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Got a special treat for you all today. This is gonna be a new video series. A few weeks ago I purchased a Duece and a half and drove it home, about a 30-mile trip total, and been spending the last few weeks doing some brake work and some other minor things to make it roadworthy. So I'll show you what we got. So here it is. We got a 1968 Jeep Kaiser M35A2. Picked this up a few weeks ago, like I mentioned. Drove it home. Do a quick overview of it. It's pretty original, other than someone put these LED lights in. It's a survivor in my opinion. Nothing's been modded to it. Mechanically, everything's pretty much bone stock. You got your toolbox here, tool compartment. Now you got plenty of room in there. It's got the original military style wheel chock. Spare tire that probably hasn't moved in 50 years. You can see the corrosion on the rim. Came with 5 brand new tires and all the top bow for the cargo top. It did have all the troop seats, but I went ahead and all the wood was rotted out, so I pretty much removed it all because it looked pretty crappy. Original stoplights, the glad hands, shackles, the other glad hand, so you could run air brakes for a trailer, air tools. You can see these tires are pretty old, a lot of dry rot on them. You're gonna get replaced soon. I'm gonna get came with 5 new ones, but I'm gonna get five more, make a complete set. I am gonna keep it original on the military tires and the same 900 by 20 tires. I did have to put a fuel pump in it, so that's a new old stock fuel pump. And here's a temporary pump that I put in. I'll probably do another video on this because these original units are pretty expensive and hard to find, and fuel pump worked really good actually. I just wanted the reliability of the original style pump. Got our battery compartment in here. So this whole tray basically slides out and you can access your batteries. So I'm gonna put a new exhaust on it. The flapper isn't original. It would have an angle back, which is no big deal. I kind of like the look of the flapper. Still got your anti-skid coating on the fenders and bumpers. Some of the things I do have to do is mainly cosmetic. Replace both windshields and the frames and the hinge. It's completely rotted out and cracked. This was a Coast Guard Jeep down here in Florida. I mean, not a Coast Guard Jeep, a Coast Guard truck down in Florida. I believe it came from the Fort Lauderdale area. I've seen some overhaul tags from 1988 on the engine, transmission, and transfer case. So yeah, here's the door. Windows roll down. So you got crank windows. Got to fix some rot here on the door. Fix some rot here. Gonna need some floorboards. It's no big deal. You can make those up relatively easy. The guy I got it from had a carpet over the whole thing, and when this thing leaks like crazy when it rains, so all that water was just staying underneath that carpet and really rusted it out pretty bad. Got your access cover for your master cylinder here. This is an original seat. This originally had a box seat, and then this was later converted to a air ride seat. It's fully adjustable, just like a modern seat. You can go forward and backwards with it. This pivots up and down. You got lumbar, and you got even more adjustment there. It does have seat belts. So you still got the flame heater, and it's still connected. I'm probably gonna do a bypass on that. I'll never need that down here. You got your original 3-lever military light switch, turn signals that do work, your air filter indicator, you know, letting you know how your flow is on your air filter. Gonna need a steering wheel. This steering wheel's pretty shot. You got your parking brake here, and this does adjust. I gotta do some more adjustments to the shoes down at the bottom. I'll show you that here in a minute. One of the other features you got, this is part of your air conditioning here. You got one of these vents. Keep some air on your feet, because it does get super hot in here. Yeah, you can see the steering wheel is pretty dangerous. I'm gonna get a new one and try to repair these threads here when I get the new steering wheel. But here's all your data plates. One thing about this truck, it is a 5-speed, but it's got a really crazy shift pattern. So you got first down here, reverse, and then second and third. So that's like a conventional 3-speed that you'd find on a Willis Jeep. But then fourth is dog-legged from third, and then fifth is in the conventional position. So it kind of makes third to fourth a little bit different than what you would normally be used to. I don't know why it's like that. My guess would be if you had someone in the middle seat, you know, if it was a conventional 5-speed pattern, reverse would be in the way of them. That's just a guess. I don't know. I think it's pretty crazy. Got your speed data plate. Top speed on this is 56 miles an hour, which seems to be true, because running about 50, which is about as fast as I've taken it, the engine's running about 2,900 RPM. This does still have the original line for the air wipers. It's controlled down here with this valve. It's basically just an on-off valve that's adjustable. I will be putting the original air wipers back in. Someone put these 24-volt electric ones in. These are basically the same that I have in my CJ5, just 24-volt. You can see all the rust on these windshield frames. So these are going to get replaced along with the new hinge. They do swing out, so you can get you some airflow. You know, you just loosen up your spring hinges here, push them out. They can go all the way out if you want. But with how rotted it is, I try to leave it alone, because I don't want this thing falling off on me. So moving over to the instrument cluster. All these gauges work, by the way, which is real surprising. The only gauge, I did have to replace the oil pressure gauge. But all these other gauges are the ones that came with the truck. You got fuel, speed, tachometer, engine temp, battery charge, air pressure, and oil pressure. So you got your high beam indicator. This is your start button. There's no key on this. So basically you just have your accessory / ignition switch. You'll turn that to on. That'll engage the fuel pump. That'll engage power to the starter. And to stop it, you pull it and kill the fuel off on the injection pump, just like an old tractor or, you know, older diesel vehicles. There's no electronic solenoid, so that's pretty nice. This does have a air engaged transfer case. So if you want your front axle engaged, you flip this, and that'll send air down to the transfer case, and this little indicator will light up red. Got the glove box. I guess you could call it a map compartment, is what the military would call it. Another thing, this passenger seat's incomplete. I can't really locate any cushions for it that are a reasonable price. So what I'm going to do is, in a later video, I'm going to make a seat cushion for it. I have the cushion material. I'm going to use this piece of plywood, cut it all nice. you know, to make it look pretty original. And then also I have a canvas cover coming. The canvas cover is only like 20 bucks. So I'm basically just going to make my own lower seat. And the seat does fold down, which is kind of a pain because I got to make a bracket to keep it down. But anyway, here's your transfer case engagement. Right now it's in high range, all the way down to low range, in between's neutral. You can split this transfer case in any gear. I normally like to take off in second low, because coming from first all the way up to second is it takes a long time, especially if you're trying to, you know, if you're stuck, you know, if you're in traffic and stuff. So I like to keep it in second low, and then when I go to shift, all I gotta do is pull it up. It's a lot faster than trying to go all the way over here in the second. We do have an original style soft top. The stitching did come off the rear window. I'm gonna have to replace the soft top or sew back in the window. It's a zipper that folds it down. Right now I just got some Velcro on here to keep it up and keep the water out as much as possible. Alright, so I climbed up here on top of the engine. This is a Continental LDT. I think it's 478 cubic inches, turbocharged. Got your air horn down there. That everything's connected for that. I just got to run the wire from the steering wheel down to it. It's not a big deal. This is your flame heater. Basically, it's got a coil with fuel going to it, to a little spark plug, and that makes a little flame inside the intake manifold to get the heat up in super cold conditions. Got your alternator down there. This is a double belt setup. Got your air cleaner. And then we'll move over to the other side. The dipstick, one thing, the dipstick is waterproof, so it actually unthreads. So you got to unthread it, pull the dipstick out, put it back in, and thread it back on. Alright, so now on the driver's side, we got our air compressor driven off the engine. Got the oil filters, which I'm gonna do an oil change soon on it. I already did the fuel filters. Got your fuel injectors with return lines. And then one thing, it's probably the biggest flaw of this truck. This is a raw steering box. This is basically the same thing you find on your old Willys Jeeps, except larger. So all the flaws with the Jeeps in terms of steering, slack, and safety are multiplied on this truck. You got a little access cover here. Here's where you'd have a louver here for the heater intake for the cab heat. So this truck never had a heater, so it tells me it was a tropical climate truck. Anyway, got our injection pump down here. It's a Bosch injection pump. Don't know the model number of it. You got your oil cooler here. There's coolant running through there along with the oil to heat up the oil quicker, and then also to keep the oil cool once the engine's running. These are your secondary fuel filters. The primary is down below under the frame. It's basically a cleanable stone filter. There are kits where you can convert that to spin-ons along with these. These are still the old canister type. Yeah, you got a little access door here. One mod Odie did put a remote brake fluid reservoir in. So on these old this does have a single circuit brake system. So that means if you got a leak anywhere, eventually you're going to run out of brake fluid and you won't be able to stop. So this is a nice little upgrade. It's real simple to put in. So I think it was around 60 bucks, but came with everything you need and all the fittings. All right, we'll go ahead and start it up. All right, so to start it up, make sure your parking brake's on. Which it is. Up is on. Make sure you're in neutral, which we weren't. Good thing I checked. So when there's no air pressure in the truck, which there's none in it right now, it's first start of the day, there's going to be a low air pressure warning come on. It's a super loud buzzer. Once the truck builds air pressure, it'll shut off. So, yeah, so here we go. So now we built up the necessary air pressure to shut the buzzer off, roughly about 60 psi. So one thing I did forget to mention, this does have the C turbo, which everybody calls the Whistler turbo. It's pretty obnoxious, but it keeps the smoke down pretty good, you know, out of the engine. So here I'll rev it up a little bit. Yeah, that's basically it. Go ahead and shut it off. So I do got an air leak. One of the air tanks decided to rust out a little pinhole at one of the mounting U-bolts. In a later video, I'll go over what to look for when buying one of these. You know, so you don't get screwed over. Alright, so I'm under the truck. Pardon the air leak, it'll go away soon. So I'm about midway through the truck, right underneath the cab. We got the transmission here. This is a divorce transfer case. So you got your drive shaft going into the transfer case. 2.5 ton Rockwell axles, closed knuckles. When full drive, I mean, this thing's basically just a giant Jeep. Got your master cylinder up here. Like I said, this is a single circuit brake system, so it's very important you check it every time you go out. Check the fluid level, or get one of those remote kits. It's real easy. You just change out the fittings on top of the master cylinder, and you just run up this hose here up to the reservoir. Everything has a grease fitting on this, just like an old Jeep would. Pretty much everything's greasable. Right here we have the air pack. This is basically your brake booster. This is what failed on the truck. Basically drove it home with no power brakes. It was super hard to stop this thing, but luckily I'm kind of in a rural area, so it wasn't really a safety concern. I did go ahead and rebuild this already. I should have did a video on it because I can't find any videos on these short style air packs. This is the newer style. The original one is probably about this long, and it's totally different, but all the connections are the same, so they're interchangeable. It's just this one has a lot less moving parts. I'll go in a later video on maintenance on this thing, but this is just a quick overview. And we got a thunderstorm rolling in. So here's your air tanks. You got 2 of them. This is the one that's leaking. Got a pinhole in it. I'm gonna have to replace it. Then here's the rebuild tag I was talking about. Rebuilt in June 1988 up in Utah, Army Depot in Utah. Same thing goes for the transmission and engine. So that's pretty good. And the odometer's reading 19,000 miles. I don't know if that's true, because military didn't care about mileage. It just swapped speedometers out all the time and everything like that. But here's your parking brake assembly. It's basically just like a Willys Jeep. You got a big drum on your transfer case with shoes. This one's external. the real early, like on my MB, that has an external park and brake drum. And then all the newer Willis, the 46s and up, have the internal. Oh, here's your rear, the intermediate axle is what it's called. You got your wishbone set up. All that's greasable. Drum brakes all the way around. No disc brakes on this. I believe there are conversions for it. But yeah, it's basically everything underneath. Then you got your fuel, 50-gallon fuel tank. All right, everybody, well, that's going to conclude the video. This was a pretty vague overview of the truck. I'm going to do, like I said, a series on this. I'm going to go over the engine. This is a multi-fuel engine. It's a hypercycle engine. It's not a diesel engine like most people think. It does run off diesel fuel as a primary fuel. But I'll go over full specs on that. One thing I did forget to mention is this truck did come with a spare engine. It's a white. It's missing the injection pump and the starter, but other than that, it's complete, and it will be for sale. It's most likely locked up. A couple of the injectors were pulled out of it, so I wouldn't be asking a lot of money for it. It's just if somebody's wanting a spare multi-fuel, it will be for sale. But yeah, I'm going to do a series on the body work, the cab work. Like I said, replacing the window frames. We're doing the floor pans, the seats. I'm going to have to do something about that driver's seat too. Any kind of mods I do, you know, safety wise and stuff, I'll make sure I let you all know and do a video on it. All right, until next time, have a good one.